Okay, we are back and we are ready to go over the fifth milestone within your financial GPS system and your infinite loop of financial planning and strategies within the Financially Fabulous coaching program. That was a lot to say. Okay, so the previous video, we went through your mindset and habits, your look back, your plan forward, and your revenue mapping. So you can see when you're looking at this loop that we talked about, um, you're going to always loop back through that revenue mapping. You've done your look back, you've done your plan forward, you've done your revenue mapping. You've got to make sure that you loop back through your mindset and your habit building, because now is when you're going to start to actually spend the money in your business going forward. So that's why it's so fitting that the mindset and habit building ends up right in the middle of this infinite loop, because the look back, the plan forward, and the revenue mapping is all about you just seeing what has been happening in the business and then identifying what your next steps of moving forward are going to look like. But once you get past your revenue mapping and you go through your mindset and habit check, because really sometimes it's a reality check to go, okay, do I have a reality check in mind? Am I willing to buy to my inventory plan and plan my profit and cash flow and handle my cash flow? Am I ready for the cash management side of my business? We sometimes have to do that reality check. Okay. So the way the infinite loop lays out is just really perfect on how we internalize our decision making and maybe want to step away from the process and the framework itself, but really truly need to make sure we put ourselves into perspective that this framework is so ultimately important at guiding us forward. So let's talk about our inventory planning. Optimizing your inventory planning is where you are optimizing your inventory management to enhance your turnover rates and maximize your return on investment through healthy, best-in-class profit margins on your inventory by category sales. So effective inventory planning ensures that you maintain appropriate levels of stock at the right cost by season, by month, and by category, and have a very healthy product mix so that you can raise your average order value as well as raise your basket size. And ultimately, our goal is that you're going to improve your cash flow because you're not going to be investing into inventory that you don't need. And you're going to reduce your markdowns because you don't have inventory sitting there and aging. So the one thing about revenue mapping is that when you get your revenue mapping right and you're constantly plugging and playing it and you're willing to adapt it and adjust it throughout any given month, as well as always be watching the next months going forward, it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, I'm reviewing it, I'm adjusting, I'm making adaptation to what I'm seeing happen in my store, in my environment, in my town, in my industry, and I'm going to buy accordingly for those habits. No way, you can always place orders later if you need to, but why overbuy? Gone are the days in independent, specialty, and boutique retail, and even brands. This inventory plan works for brands too, you guys. If you're a brand, this works for you as well, the entire system. But gone are the days where you're buying inventory because it's a belief system. Where gone are the days where the belief system is that if you're buying the inventory and you have the inventory, the sales will follow. That is bad advice. I'm sorry, but I'm going to live in a belief system, put my foot in the sand. I will stake my reputation on it. It is bad advice. And the reason it's bad advice is relative to your revenue mapping. If you don't have the customers, the new customers, if you're not retaining your customers, if they're not frequenting your store, if you don't have a healthy average order value and basket size, you will not be able to sell the inventory. You've got to have the customers, you've got to have the traffic, and they've got to be performing as you need them to for the inventory. So revenue mapping is crucial. If you are not revenue mapping and you are just have a revenue goal that is never obtainable, it's year over year growth, it's a vanity number, and you're buying inventory to that, you now have a revenue problem. You now have an inventory problem, and you likely have a debt problem and a cash flow problem. And so that's why literally I'm kind of on a soapbox moment here, but that's why I will stake my reputation on the fact that you've got to plan your inventory logically your revenue logically, and then you've got to plan your inventory responsibly around that revenue goal. Even if it's not the revenue goal that you desire it to be, it is the reality. And guess what? We just stabilize the business and we keep working towards that big kahuna revenue goal that you have. But profitability is what is going to get you there ultimately without the financial pain and agony and debt. Okay. So inventory planning, as I told you, we are going to show you every bit of your financial GPS system relative to these 7 milestones. So right here, your revenue plan we looked at in the prior video. I am now going to pop over to the next worksheet in your financial GPS system workbook. And what I want to show you here, when we talk about data entry and maintaining this workbook and how overwhelming it maybe looks like because there's so many numbers on the page, don't let it scare you. Once you know what these numbers are telling you and how to actually focus on it with a laser focus, right? It will be very easy for you, I promise, okay? Imagine how you felt the first time you opened and started your point of sale system. You were clueless. You didn't know where to pull reports, what buttons to click, how to set up your inventory, how to do this, how to do that. And you're mastered it now. You use it inside and out. You're very efficiently. This will be the same. Imagine when you pull up any app, the first time you ever used TikTok or Instagram, it couldn't have been easy for you, right? This is going to be the same. It will become easier. It's like any other technology. You can learn it. You're smart. You're intelligent. You are an entrepreneur. And you are going to be financially fabulous. So here's where we're at. What I was going to show you though, look at how little data entry. That's it. Every single Monday, I coach my clients to come in and put their current on-hand inventory into their inventory plan. Boom. That's it. That's all you need to do. We just need to know what your current inventory is, and we need to know that you're maintaining your revenue mapping and keeping it up to date, double checking it every week, making sure that you've done a cross check every month, and then you've got an inventory plan. So what this means is this inventory plan right here is the coordinates that you have set relative to your inventory and the percentage of sales that you desire in each category, the turn rate that you are planning for in each category, as well as the planned initial cost percentage of sale, right? Like what did the product cost relative to the initial retail price? 25%. That would mean it's got a 4-time markup. That is coming in right here. Some of it's behind the scenes in the formulas. You're not seeing everything, but this initial plan, it's all starting right here coming from your plan forward. So now what happens is you can see right here is your revenue plan. This is coming from your revenue mapping, and you can see that it's coming in by season and by month. And it is telling you exactly how much inventory overall, based on your weighted averages, how much inventory overall should you start each month? And of that inventory overall, how much should be in each category at cost value? So you can see it says at cost value. It's telling you what your inventory needs are based on the metrics that you want to achieve and that you set as your coordinates in your plan forward for each month and each season. So it comes down to, if you were to look at it and say, right now, I'm going to start to buy for fall and holiday, and I'm going to just assume that none of my inventory carries forward, you would sit down and know that you need to buy $61,487 worth of inventory for September. And here's the dollar amounts that you would spend in each of your categories. So that's a simple way to look at it, but we go even deeper. So your inventory sell through based on how you are selling your inventory, based on your revenue goals and your revenue mapping, staying current, and the metrics that you set in your plan forward, your percentage of sales by each category. What is your calculated sell through by category, by store? Then we have our on-hand inventory. That gives us your inventory buying budget. So when you look at an inventory plan, how it starts is that you first identify with how much inventory do I need? Then you look at it and say, how much inventory am I going to sell each of my periods going forward? Less how much inventory I already have on hand, what is left for me to buy? What more do I need to buy? As I'm selling through, taking into consideration what I need and what I already have on hand, what is left over to buy? What do I need to buy? That's where this inventory purchasing budget comes in. So you can see if I scroll up, the very first section of this is you have an inventory plan. You have a full-on inventory plan, what's needed and how are you going to sell it. Then you have an opportunity to tell the system what is your current inventory on hand. Then from here on down, you have a full-on purchasing budget. So you have an inventory buying budget. It's telling you exactly what needs to be purchased. If it is a negative dollar amount, that means that you are overstocked in that area. And if it is a positive amount, you need the purchase, you need the inventory. I teach you how to handle overstocks, and I teach you, obviously, we'll teach you and guide you on how to best buy going forward. Then relative to one of the worksheets, and we're not going to get into that in this overview video series, I do give you a pre-COGS purchasing worksheet where you can maintain your purchase orders in this system so that they show up right here in this inventory on order. I do coach to the Faves app, but I also show you how to get the Faves app data into your pre-COGS purchasing so it shows up in your inventory plan, okay? So you can use it without the Faves app and you can use it with. I like the Faves app because I want you to have the tool while you're buying to maintain the budget. So if you are using the Faves app, this would go as your buying budget in your Faves app. Then this would show up in your Faves app as you place orders. You would transpose this data into the pre-COGS purchasing worksheet. And then it gives you an open to buy by category. So it tells you that, okay, here's what you need to buy. That's your inventory buying budget. Here's what you've already bought. You've fulfilled the budget with these orders. What is left to spend? Okay. But here's where it goes deeper than any other inventory plan in our industry. Nobody else has this. So it takes everything from up above, your inventory plan, and it gives you what your units are, what your unit needs are by collection and new release, okay? So number of units, based on the information we know about your look back, this will tell you exactly how many units you need to buy within each category, within each month and season. So if I look at fall, for example, fall being September and October, I would look at tops to say, I need to buy 1,219 units of tops for my September and my October open to buy. This is where the planning comes in to say, do I go deep or do I go wide on my inventory plan? If I know that I need 1,219 tops and I'm going to say that I'm going to buy 2 packs, that's this next section. I'm going to buy 2 packs and each pack has 6 units. If you look at this, that now says I need 46 styles for September and 56 styles for October. So I need a total of 102 styles. This is where all of a sudden you can look at it and say, I don't have the bandwidth to buy 102 styles. And I feel like I'm going to sell through too quick. And I've got to photographer them. I've got to get them in my store. They got to look good in my store. I've got to get them on my e-commerce. I think it's going to be in my best interest to maybe go 3 packs. Okay, now I need 68 styles. That's too little. So maybe now I'm going to go say half of my purchases will be 2 packs. The other half will be 3 packs. That's 81 styles. That feels more comfortable. I will make the decision when I'm buying my product, which products will be 2 packs and which products will be 3 packs, okay? So that will help you identify how deep and wide you should go, and it allows you to plug and play the data so that you can make your decisions accordingly. And again, sometimes you just have to split the difference. So actually, if I were to say I'm gonna go 2.5, yeah, it says 3 because I don't have it round. It actually says 2.5 behind it. But you can see where all of a sudden you can plug and play to help you in your decisions. But then let's go one step further. This next section down below will help you design your collections and your new releases. And the idea here is that we want a product mix that is very healthy And we want every new release and every collection to touch all of your product mix or all of your categories so that you can increase your average order, increase your basket size, but also give every product that you buy its spotlight period, right? Like where it is actually being displayed and spotlit. So if you were to come in and, since we're focusing on fall, if you were to come in and say, no matter what, every month I'm going to do 2 releases, right? Like, so twice a month I'm going to do a release, and I've got 2 months in fall. That would mean I've got 4 releases. So that would tell you that cost value, you need to have in each of your releases, you need to have 1752 tops of cost value. So the cost value of the tops that are in your new releases would be 1752. So that will help you. And then it comes down here to say, all right, how many styles does that mean? So of the 1752 of tops that is going to go into one of your releases in September, one of your 2, you would come in and you'd say, okay, I need 11 styles of tops in my September week 1 or my September number 1 release. And I need 11 top styles in my September number 2 release. And that will equate to my 1752. So you would be picking through, you wouldn't be not only purchasing product, but be picking through existing product that you can repurpose into a new collection as part of those styles in that product mix. So the inventory plan itself is very robust. It's very informational, and it gives you several different layers of decision-making tools, even though you might not use all of these layers, right? They're there for you, and they're accessible, and they're adaptable for your personal and purchasing needs, all right? So that is the inventory plan, very robust and very competitive on our market. So let's go one step further. We're past the inventory planning. Now we're cycling through our infinite journey financial GPS system milestones, and we're into profit planning. Profit planning is going to be where you are identifying how you are going to manage the cash that flows through your business so that you have profit at the end. So you're going to create a robust plan for protecting profitability, protecting your inventory investment dollars and overhead expense funds. You're going to strategically assign purpose to every dollar that flows through your business while automatically calculating exactly where your cash flow will end and in any given period. Okay, so same as the last. Let's look at what this looks like in your financial GPS system. So in your financial GPS system, we're moving past your inventory plan and we're going to your profit and your cash flow plan. So your profit and your cash flow plan, I want to focus right here on this very top 2 sections, okay? Actually, I'm going to focus on all of it. Yeah. So the top section is where you are right here. If you look at this, any given period, you can come in and say, what is my existing cash flow? If you're starting the plan or you're right now in June of this plan, you could come in and say, my cash flow is $5,000. That's how much money I have in the bank. Once you put a dollar amount in any given field, so there should only be $1 amount in any of these. It's the month that you are in right now. If you know that this month is $5,000 and you have your revenue, this is your revenue mapping, it's coming in automatically. And guess what? This is your inventory plan coming in automatically telling you what money is on your inventory on order and what is on your inventory open to buy. Like literally, it's pulling what's in right here into your cash flow plan. So revenue is considered on your cash flow plan already. Inventory at cost, purchase orders that you've already placed, as well as what you need to place, so you need to reserve that money, is on your plan. You have the opportunity to come in and say, here's where I'm starting with my cash as of this month. And then here's where I want to set aside money for future growth of inventory, for some business reserves. Maybe this isn't important, so they stay zero. Maybe you have a capital loan, so you have to tell it that you're paying 17% and we'll allow it to cap out in a different example. And then maybe you have minimum credit card payments. You come in and you tell it what your minimum credit card payments are. And then we come in and say, this is actually just reserved for you to come in and say, I need to put money in the company and then I'm going to take it back out. I'll show you that. You can tell it where you're going to invest money in order to have a cash reserve, or where you're going to take it back out. But nonetheless, and then you're going to tell it where you're going to protect inventory or profit, right? I'm going to say I'm going to protect 20% profit because that's what I coach to. What this is doing for you is there's a lot of data here, but what it is doing to you is you can see that anytime I've entered a field, it's always in the yellow. It's allowing me to plug and play. It's saying, if I start this month with $5,000, and this is my revenue mapping for the next 12 months, and I've been watching my revenue mapping, I'm very comfortable with this. It's logical, it's realistic. There's no reason why I shouldn't obtain it. I know that with this revenue mapping, this is my inventory buying based on orders I've either placed or need to place. These are my goals for building total reserves. I'm going to leave that at 0 for now. I've got a capital loan that I need to fund. That's all taken into consideration. My money in and money out, this is my opportunity. If I need to put money in or don't, so I'm going to set this as 0 to say, nope, I don't want to put any money in my company. I don't know that I need it right now. And then I want to protect 20% profitability so that I can pay myself, so that I can have the money set aside, pay taxes, all the things. What's going to happen with my cash flow? Number one, it's going to come in and say, well, and then what are your expenses? So I teach you to go in and plug and play your expenses. And I always teach you to try to stay under that 40% as long as you can be at about 40% gross profit margin. 40% cost with a 60% gross profit margin. And if your industry doesn't allow that, we adjust those figures accordingly. But no, this is where you plug and play. What is your best in class? What is your achievable relative to percentage of your revenue dollars, your deposits going to inventory? What percent is going to be reserved for profit? And what percent is going to be allowed to be spent on operating expenses? Okay, so you plug and play what your budget is going to look like. This is where you tell the system, how much money are you spending on rent? How much money are you spending on utilities? What is your payroll and your compensation? And what happens is once you plug it in, you know that it's plug and play. You can change the data at any point. You're putting yourself in a position where you can say, okay, if I start June with $5,000, I'm actually going to end June in the hole. I'm going to be $21 negative in my bank account. And then 480, it gets worse. It gets worse. It gets worse. And now it starts to get better. I can't survive with this plan, right? In January, February, March, April, May, June, it's worse, right? I can't survive with this plan itself. So then you come in and go, okay, obviously, clearly, these $2 are a big problem. Maybe this just caps out. Maybe it's not. Well, I'm going to just leave it as if it's 150K. So maybe it comes down to say, all right, my expenses really truly are not out of whack. They're not bad. Christyne's coaching to 40% as long as I have 40% here and mine's 29%, what I'm actually investing in my inventory. Then I'd come in and say, because of my debt, I have to pay my debt first. I can't have 20% profitability. And I can see that my operating budget is a -4 right here. Actually, your operating budget is -4 because of that. Yeah. So I'm going to come in and say, maybe saving that 20%, maybe you can only go, it's a plug and play of numbers, right? So I'm going to say, maybe this can only be 10%. Yes, that feels okay. So if I start June with $5,000, I'm preserving 10% profitability, knowing that profit is essentially, I have more profit, but that money is going into my capital funding. It comes down to saying, if I start with 5, I'm going to end with 6. That's good. The next month, 15, the next month, 22, it continues to build. Oh, still safe here, still safe here, still safe here. I'm going to get my capital loan paid down. I'm going to have 10% profit. I'm still building my cash flow up to be comfortable and in a good place. And my expenses are all in line because they're under 40%. I have a very manageable and healthy profit and cash flow plan. And I can visually see that each month in my revolving 12-month plan forward, starting with June, because that's where I've checked it to say this is my start date, I can see that my cash flow will work out and that I won't end up going further into debt or having to take on another capital loan on top of a capital loan. That once my capital loan is finished out, I'm coming back into this next June, I'll have $58,000 and I won't go back into capital loan debt. And then this can be zeroed out because it will be over. Okay. So you can see that you can plug and play, and all of a sudden the power behind seeing exactly where your cash flow is going to be. So this cash flow at month end is so powerful because it gives you that when you're infinitely planning your business and you know that you cannot run out of money, or you don't want to invest in yourself and you just plain old can't, you don't want to go any further in debt. What does that look like for you and your business? This is going to tell you. And as you saw, when you come up with negatives or when cash flow gets a little too tight and it's uncomfortable, you all of a sudden have to look at it to say, I've got to cut back spending somewhere. And instead of it being a reactive cutback because you can't pay the bills, debt is accumulating, you don't know how you're going to pay next month's mortgage or next month's rent payment, you can instead play it out far beyond or far ahead of crisis mode actually hitting. Okay, so it's keeping you out of crisis mode by being very proactive in your planning. And you know what, my friends, you're going to sleep better at night. I mean, think about what I just showed you. It seems difficult. It seems like a lot of data, but if you allow it to not be scary and instead allow it to be extremely empowering, you are going to sleep better at night and you are going to be such a better business owner because of it. All right, so let's go back to our workbook. We're coming down to the 7th section. So the 7th section is where you are coming in your cash flow planning. So you're going to follow our 40-20-40 cash flow management strategy. If you are in an industry that doesn't allow 40% cost of goods, we will adjust it for you, but no matter what, it will still be within the same framework. But that cash flow strategy is designed to tactically keep the cash that flows into your business safely designated for the plan that you set within your profit plan. And we just went over your profit plan. And it always is in accordance to having a balance of what funds are available for each of your priorities, such as inventory, debt reduction, owner's pay, and operating expenses. So what this means relative to your financial GPS system is once you get your profit and your cash flow plan built, you will actually start to identify with what your true percentages are. So we coach it on 40-20-40 because those are our metrics within our industry. But if you've identified that your metric is, let's just say that your inventory is going to be 30%, and because you have 17 going to debt, you actually need your profit, tax, and owner's pay to be 27% because profit pays debt. And then you would come in and say, all right, then my expenses are about 40% or 38%. Okay. So that is, and then obviously you can even put the difference in reserves is what will happen here is you can start to put difference in reserves. And that will be actually like a 6% reserves because you're sitting pretty there. That allows you to identify with what money goes into what allocation bank account relative to our 40-20-40 rule that we're stating right here. We coach it 40-20-40, like I said, but once you get through your profit and your cash flow plan, all of a sudden your cash management strategy becomes your very own cash management strategy with a simplified percentage rule, okay, that is so specific to you. So I just showed you that. All right, I'm going to end the video here, and then we are going to move forward, and we're going to talk about your optimize phase, your elevate phase, and what it takes to get enrolled into this program in the next several videos that we issue out to you. I'll see you in the next one.